Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I'm bringing you a video. This is an additional video with books that I would recommend that you pick up during Old School April. I know Old School April has probably already begun at this point in time, but I wanted to just share my thoughts, give you some recommendations. You don't have to read them in April. If you feel like reading these in the summertime, in the winter, these are just books I've loved and I think would be perfect for that old school vibe, the kind of warmer weather, the slasher, the carnival sort of thing. Yeah, so these are the books I would want to recommend you to pick up during Old School April, or just any time that you find this video. The first set of books I'm going to recommend are really old school books. These books are all pre-90s. I made a bunch of content for these books, so I will leave links to the videos in the cards and in the description as well, so you can go check out my full thoughts and a reading experience on each of these books. There's two books in here that I don't actually have content for, but let's do the ones that I do have content for first. So the first one is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. This is probably one of the original Exorcist books. I did a whole video dedicated to The Exorcist, reading and watching and comparing. So yes, loved reading this, had a great time with it. It's an old school book. You will probably enjoy reading it during Old School April, or just any time during the Halloween season too. Then we have The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, one of my favourite books of all time. The Hellbound Heart you'll probably know from Hellraiser. I did another video dedicated to reading and watching and doing a comparison of both the book and the movie. I love this book. It is about desires, power and obsession, so really interesting to read this and do a whole comparison, because I really loved Hellraiser for a while and I never read the book. So finally getting to read the book was a huge success and became an absolute favourite of mine, so would highly recommend picking up The Hellbound Heart as well. Then we have The Omen by David Sessler. I didn't love this book as much as I did love the other ones. You'll probably know that if you checked out the other videos during my reading experience, but I loved the first Omen movie. Okay, so this is before The Omen. That one was so much better than The Omen, but it's still a really good read. It's an old school book, has really old vintage vibes, and it is heavily religious, so definitely go in with a pinch of salt if you're not that religious. But yeah, it's still an interesting book, and that's why I would still recommend this to read if you've not read it before. And then we have Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. So this is a book about a woman who moves into an apartment block, becomes friends with their elderly neighbours, and her life suddenly changes. Their life in this New York apartment suddenly changes, and they finally get to have a baby that they've been wanting, and shit hits the fan as usual, and it is following that whole journey. It's a really good read. I really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend picking it up during Old School April. And then we have my favourite Stephen King of all time, and that is Pet Sematary. This is a book about grief and humanity and what people will do to bring back people that they love. So it is very wholesome, it is scary, it's terrifying, and it's a look into humans and humans' desires and grief and loss and all of that stuff. It's a full, well-rounded story that showcases the real horrors, and I think that's why I love this book so much. I would highly recommend picking it up during Old School April, or just any time, because it is very frightening and such an incredible read. And then we have The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. It's a gothic horror story that is basically a memoir of a child serial killer who is recounting all of his killings whilst leading up to his brother's return. He's describing everything that went down during his younger years all the way up to his current day. It is quite heavy. It is a brutal story, and something to bear in mind if you do pick this up. It is very detailed. Child murder and everything else. It's very dark, but I do feel like it's a good read if you are interested in the more darker side of humanity. Yeah, it's still an interesting read. So I'll move into one poetry sort of book, or short story collection, should I say, and that is The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy and Other Stories by Tim Burton. I really love this book. It is so short that you could actually read it and still read so much more during the month if you're participating in readathons. It's a tale of childhood, and it's centered around innocence and the death of innocence and the whole macabre side of life. It's very intriguing, and the illustrations in here are just immaculate. Loved reading this, and it is literally such a quick read because not all the pages are filled with text, so you could read this in literally like an hour and a half. I know I read it in an hour, so really loved this and thought that it would be an interesting read for people who love Tim Burton and the whole darker side of life, and it is centered around childhood innocence. So it's an interesting take. The next book, or series of books I should mention, are the Mina and the Undead series. This is Mina and the Slayers. This is the second book in the series. I don't have the first one. I literally don't know where it is, but this Mina and the Undead is centered around vampires in the 1990s in New Orleans around Halloween. So what is more perfect for Old School April than a monster story set in the 90s? It's got like Sabrina the Teenage Witch vibes, mixed with like Buffy. So it has a lot of those nostalgic feels, and a book I would really recommend picking up during Old School April. Next book I would recommend is The Crypt of the Moon Spider by Nathan Ballingard. This is a monster-based story, although I'd say the human is the real monsters in this book. But this is centered around a giant moon spider that has a silt that people put into brains in order to cure them of melancholy and other ailments that they may have. So this is set in the 1900s, so again an old school kind of feel, but it is sci-fi as it's set on the moon. It has a scary creature involved, and also a huge amount of medical horror. I think it's the perfect read for Old School April. Next up we have Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. This is a werewolf story, and I think to me it screams like ginger snaps. It's got a huge metaphor for girls going through puberty and that sort of thing, like the changing, and obviously werewolves change, so I really love that connection. I have a whole video dedicated to Such Sharp Teeth, so I will leave that linked down in the description and in the cards for you, if you want to check out some more of my thoughts on this book. But I think it would be an incredible read because it does scream like 90s sort of feel. Then we come into our last two books, and these are centered around carnivals. So the first one is The Cotton Candy Massacre by Christopher Robinson. This is a book that is about the reopening of Bunkin's Bonanza. We're following a lot of were-clowns and that sort of thing, so it is crazy. It's got a huge amount of slashing in here, and lots and lots of descriptions. It's set up like a movie, so you'll be reading like split screen to and that sort of thing. So it's in your head when you're reading it, you can kind of picture it as a movie. So I think it's an incredible book to read, and again, perfect for old school April because it does have the 1989 sort of feel, and it's a carnival, and what's not to love about a carnival. And finally, the last book that I have is Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess. This is another carnival based story where a group of teenagers go to this abandoned carnival to spend the night, and I think again it's set in the 1980s, but I'm not entirely sure if I actually remember. Yeah, in the 1990s you've got roller skating, carnivals, slashers, killers, and you have old school music that is often thrown in there. So I feel like this has a mix of everything, which would make it a great read for old school April. So there you have it. Those are all the books that I would recommend that you pick out for old school April, or just to pick up anytime during the year. They're some of my favorite reads. Some of them are incredible, and I feel like you may love them too. Let me know in the comments what you'd recommend. Have you read any of these, and did you love them? Let me know in the comments. I would love to have that discussion with you. And I'm going to end it there, but until the next time, keep your pigeons turning and embrace the darkness. Bye!